over my pants, dang it. There we go. All right. What do we got? Did you get in there?
Not yet.
All right, so we're a little after 6.
Yep.
Welcome back to Sprague River Homestead. I'm Nikki.
I'm Kanan.
And we are still stuck at the house after 12 days. So we thought we'd take a little time to talk about preparedness. But first we'll go through and do the usual updates. As you can imagine, not a lot going on here. Chickens are laying. We're getting eggs like crazy. The quail are not yet, probably because I still have them in their big winter group. Haven't had a chance to move them out to their breeding pens because, well, there's a whole lot of snow out there. Whole lot of snow out there. So yeah, not getting any quail eggs yet, but as soon as I move them, last year when I moved them, I was getting eggs within like a week. So I'm not too worried about that. Got my first rabbit litter since June or July. Like, it's been a while. So I've got 2 American litters, 3 actually did kindle, threw them on the wire. I don't know why. I got to figure that out. Probably because I've used some slightly different nest boxes than they usually get. Most of mine got moved out back for cleaning and are buried in the snow. I did have some of my wire boxes left that take a cardboard liner, so I use that. But my girls are used to having straw as their main nesting material, and we weren't able to get out to get them straw. So I've used some hay. That seems to have confused a couple of the younger girls, so they didn't nest in the box like they should have. And then I had a couple of girls miss. So some Americans, some Harlequins, and the Martins, if they took, are going to be due in a couple weeks. At least the first one, and then one after that, and then another one the week after that. So we got some rabbit litters. I generally like to have all my cages like cleaned out for the moms before they kindle. That didn't happen because what was supposed to be just a couple of inches every single time in the last 2 weeks that the forecast has been given to us, we are getting 3 to 4 times what they say. So spent a lot of time on the tractor here lately trying to keep the road open, which we'll talk about in a minute. And that's kind of the big stuff. I've been working on the cookbook. We've been reading a lot. Catching up on all those things that we don't get to do. I was crocheting. I was working on a nice Afghan and broke my reading glasses. I think I had some help. One of the dogs was sniffing them and knocked them down the other day, and I picked them up and put them back. When I picked them back up the next day, they were snapped right in the middle. So I think they got impact snapped when it dropped, and I just didn't notice. So that's kind of the big stuff, right? I mean, that's all that's really been going on since the last live stream. Yeah, we did have a baby goat born.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly. Her name is Oopsie Daisy. That should tell you a whole lot of what happened. We had a doe that missed last year that we knew we were a little slow getting last year's bucklings, the 22 bucklings, out of the pasture. And we knew they were harassing one of the does. I'm guessing compared to everybody else here that she comes into heat way early. She's always been kind of quiet about heat. So apparently one got her. It was no big deal. Not related to her in any way anyway. Not that I care about a good line breed. But they weren't related to her at all. So no big deal. And she kitted out a buck and a doe. And we didn't even see any signs out of this doe that she was bred. She's always a little bit on the portly side. She's got a lot of boar blood. And so she, buck and doe, buck didn't make it. The little doeling is doing great. We separated mom and baby. So doing a kid share here in probably another 2 to 3 weeks. And she's a cute little thing. Ken's had pictures up on Facebook of her. We'll get some more pictures. But yeah, her name is Daisy, Oopsie Daisy.
I call her Oopsie.
Yeah, he calls her Oopsie. I call her Daisy. Either way, bad on our part.
Yeah, but she's doing good. She's she's annoying her mother because they're stuck in like an 8x8 spot and they can't go outside. And so she's just literally bouncing off the walls, trying to climb up her mother.
As kids will do.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so since there's not a whole lot else to talk about, let's talk a little bit about preparedness. So when I say we've been stuck at the house for 12 days, we really have been stuck at the house for 12 days.
Yeah.
The last time we made it out was Friday before last. So this Friday will actually be a full 2 weeks. And at that time, we knew it was getting deep. We scraped all the way out and all the way back in. We barely made it back in. They were calling for up to 6 inches over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, yeah, no big deal, right? That's not what happened. So we got about 16 inches by the time that weekend was over. So I was able to, like, in the middle between a run of storms, we were at like 6 or 8 inches. I took the tractor and the blower and blew down to the driveway, down to the goat barn, so that Kanan doesn't have a heart attack trying to walk to the barns. It all filled back in, and it's been constant. Like the other night, it was supposed to be 1 to 3 inches at night, 1 to 3 during the day. We were forecasted for 3 inches. We got 8. So everything we've been getting has just been compounding. It's been cold, so the tractor has not run real well. Diesel doesn't like cold, and it's also been weirdly, so we'll get like big snow at night and then it'll hit 40 degrees during the day, so it turns to mush. And if you've ever operated a snowblower, you know what happens when you try to operate a snowblower through slush. It packs. It turns into concrete and it wraps around the auger and it packs up the chute and then it doesn't blow. So we expect this kind of stuff, right? Not to this degree. This is the second time we've been stuck this year. Last time it was only for 4 or 5 days. It was no huge thing. So we do prepare a little bit for this, right? We make sure we've got dog food on hand and firewood and all that kind of stuff. But we definitely, looking at what we've seen from some of the locals in the community, are the exception, not the rule. A lot of people stuck right now. A lot of people stuck with no good way to dig it out either. I've seen everything from, I have a tractor, but I don't know how to operate it.
Yes.
I only have a round, regular pointed shovel, which if you live in snow country, you have got to get a snow shovel. They're not the crap that they used to be. You know, they used to be all plastic. Most of them have a good metal strip on them now. They don't break as easy. But you've got to be able to dig it out. And you really got to be prepared to be hunkered in. Like we, right before that last time that we went out before the next big storm, we made sure that we had, you know, most of the essentials. We picked up our mail and made sure we had diesel and all that kind of stuff for the generator. We did not expect to be stuck this long.
No.
But we do prepare with the idea of being here for up to 30 days. And I guess that's just us. We're just prepared for that, just because you never know, right? If anybody's been watching the news, they've probably seen all these people stuck in California. And some of the interviews, if you go online and listen or read some of them, are amazing. And I mean amazing in the idea that they live up in snow country. And I know they got a lot of snow. But like they talked to one couple that had been stuck like 8 or 9 days. They had only had 5 days worth of food on hand to start with, because they only eat fresh fruits and vegetables. And the gal only goes shopping like every 5 days. So they picked up food and thought they were good. They ran out of food. I've seen people run out of food for their dogs. You know, so I guess to me, in light of the fact that the weather people said, 2 to 3 inches and we got like 8, you know, even FEMA now says 30-day supply, right? Bare minimum, you should have a 30-day supply. And I don't take government advice very well. But at least a 30-day supply, right? Isn't that what they say? 30 or 60?
I think it's 30, but in the last 3 years, if you just haven't like the last 3 years decided to put just a few more cans of soup away, right? Just something you're like, you know what? I really like X.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a couple more cans in the old basket at the supermarket. If you haven't done that, it's like, wow, the last 3 years has not taught you that you're gonna go in somewhere and not have anything. It's
and soup's a good one. I mean, you're talking about soup. Soup's a good one. So a lot of these people have run out of power. Like there was a power outage in town like yesterday, like in Klamath Town. And people were freaking out because the power was out. Well, if the power is out and you've got no way to cook, and I totally respect that. Look, not everybody is on gas, and not everybody has a backup generator, and not everybody's on solar, and that's cool. We understand that we're a bit of an exception because this is just how we live. So we've got all that kind of stuff. But at least soup, while it might not be tasty to eat chicken noodle soup or anything else cold, it's food. It's calories. So to not have at least soup on hand seems a little reckless to me. I mean, look, Albertsons right now has the big chunky cans on sale, like buy two get three free or some crazy thing. So hurry on down to Albertsons. But when we lived in Mississippi, this was so you'd have to understand that when we moved to Mississippi, he had actually moved pre-Katrina. Mm-hmm. I was in Tennessee trying to sell our house, so I moved post-Katrina. And we knew people that during Katrina got stuck for weeks. No power, no water, no septic, no nothing. The people Kanan was living with, renting a room from, filled the bathtubs to flush the toilet. They were on it. They were prepared. And they made it through okay. The big worry at that time was fuel. Yep. And as soon as Kanan could get back up to Tennessee where we were living, he was coming home on the weekends. He took his motorcycle back with him because it was more fuel efficient than the Ranger pickup, which got good mileage. Yeah. And right before Katrina hit, I filled every gas can that we had and sent them all with him so that he had gas because people were running out of gas in the line to get gas.
Wow.
Yeah. So I guess whatever, and I know everybody's in a different spot, right? So like most people aren't going to get snowed in like we are. But Southerners have their own, I mean, like look at the ice storm that went through Texas and the rest of it here, 2 years ago now? The South, you're dealing with hurricanes and what?
Joanne says she wants to hear the story on your shirt, the hide and seek world champion.
Oh, hide and seek world champion. Anybody who knows that I'm a big sci-fi nerd and real into Marvel, I'm also a big Bigfoot fan. One day I will tell the story of what I believe he's not I believe was possibly some Bigfoot, Sasquatch type creatures that were here when I got here. And I had some things. Look at him smirking like, don't do it. But I had some weird stuff happen when I first moved here.
Look, I've never doubted your experience. I'm not. And she will binge watch, and she's like 2 months in a row burned out all the internet, high-speed internet, watching season after season of Bigfoot stuff.
No, I watched Skinwalker Ranch too.
Yeah, UFOs. But the stuff that we've seen on all those shows, now, again, it's TV, so take it with a grain of salt. But at least it matches the experience that you've told me you've had here until I showed up.
Elijah's trying to get... when we finish this talk on preparedness, I'll tell y'all.
You asked for it, Elijah. I'm just telling you.
We'll be losing subscribers like crazy. Everybody's going to be like, that lady's nuts. But yeah, so I'll tell you where we have come across the weakest in the last 12 days.
Yeah.
So we, and really, I mean, we're a long way from having any kind of trouble, right? we were joking on Instagram and Facebook this week that the biggest crisis we've encountered so far is we were out of guacamole, we were out of sour cream, and we ran out of Colby Jack cheese.
Yeah.
So taco night was not as happy as it could have been.
Yeah.
But that's only been in the last couple days.
It is. It's only been the last 3 or 4. And I've made a big deal of it, joking about it, because it's just funny to me. And that's the crisis that we've allowed to happen, I guess you would say, after all this stuff, being snowed in. We're not
because we
panicked.
didn't expect to be here this long.
We didn't. And look, I still work in the mornings. I still have coffee and creamer, so I'm not freaked out.
No, our water has stayed going.
The
sink has not frozen up.
No, we still have diesel to run the tractor, to run the generator. Most days it's honestly been sunny.
Yeah.
Sunny enough, I should say. Because our solar is amply sized, or it's correctly sized for the lifestyle we lead. The biggest complaint I've had is we get so much snow that it buries the doors going to the shop, which is irritating to constantly have to shovel snow and transport it away because there's nowhere to put it anymore. You just have to take it away somewhere and throw it in the yard.
Yeah.
We're almost out of firewood, and
yeah, so that's what I was getting to. So the things that we've been most concerned about, a lot of people know that it got really bad in the fall really early, so we didn't finish all of our firewood, right? We are 99% wood heat. We do have a propane heater backup, but it's pretty much wood heat here. And we had been going up to the back of our property where we had some down trees and we've been cutting. And we're at a situation now where the snow had gotten too deep. We couldn't get back there. Right. So we had made an arrangement with a guy here in town to get some firewood, get a cord or two. And the snow came in deeper. We cannot get out to get the firewood. We're down to a week.
Maybe.
A week or so.
Like that, yeah.
The snow is melting. I will get us out of here in the next week. Because we have, with no more snow in the forecast immediately, I'm getting the road cleaned up. But so that's been one concern, is we didn't have enough firewood going forward. If we run out of firewood before we get out of here, we did check the other day, the propane tank is still at 55%. Yeah. We don't use a whole lot of propane. We just cook with it and heat water. So we're in no dramatic danger.
It was a colder, longer winter than we expected.
Yeah.
And we usually plan for a cold, long winter because wood, as long as you keep it dry, it'll carry over to next winter. And we've done that for years, where we've had excess wood that just gets carried over. No big deal. We use it the next year. This year, your first one in 10 years, that, we're going to be pretty darn close to be out of wood. And, thankfully we've always kept the mantra that we always have something of value to trade. And right now it's, the guy just wants cash. So no big deal. We can do some cash, go cash in some cans and bottles or whatever we need to do to
yeah, we're fine.
Yeah, we're fine.
So that's been one thing. The other thing is, when this started, we were down to 4 or 5 weeks of food for the big dogs. Most people know we have LGDs. We have, 5?
Yes, 5 outside, 3 inside.
We have 5 LGDs, and then we've got the 3 house dogs. And one house puppy she just pounds food like nobody's business. So we started this with about 5 weeks worth of food. So we've got about 3 weeks of dog food left outside. That worries me, only because anybody who's tried to buy dog food in the last year or so knows that inventory levels of dog food are pretty radically up and down.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I've got maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks of rabbit food left. The ugliest part of this, and I'm hoping that my feed store is going to be very, very understanding. When I talked to her a couple days ago, we had just ordered 2 pallets of rabbit feed, and it had just come in. And when we went out on that Friday, I told her, I don't think I can get the trailer out. Can I come get it next week? Because this is all they're saying for snow. She said, yeah, absolutely. And we have not been able to make it out since. So, I've been ordering feed for years. This is the first time that I've had a delay in picking it up. So I'm hoping they're going to be cool about it. Lots of people are stuck. We are not the only ones.
Yeah.
But that's been the biggest items of concern at this point. And that's always been our weak spot. And what we're going to be working on going forward is food for the animals is always the bigger concern. You know, we've got a good sized pantry and you know, we keep the propane topped off and all that kind of stuff. So we're pretty set there, but I could run out of dog food.
Yeah.
The nice thing is this is March. And we're getting a dozen eggs a day, and if I have to, I can roll those eggs out into dog food.
Yeah, I did today. I mean, we had so much in the back room back there. I just took the oldest eggs.
We probably got 12 dozen back there,
I took 3 dozen eggs and just made them into scrambled eggs. Took them out for the dogs. They don't mind.
Yeah,
they're okay with it. So
and the house dogs. Like we've opened canned chicken that I've canned and you know, so we're not out of anything, but that is one thing that I do worry about. We're still a good month and a half of food for the birds.
Yeah. And
like I said, we're running low on the rabbits, but if we run out of rabbit feed, there is still hay in the barn and I could transition them over to hay. So you know, it's doable. We can make it through, but like I was saying, you know, there's some people that didn't even have that. We know people who are out of firewood. We know people who have had other people hike them in propane tanks, cat food. There are people out of food. What really got me was the number of people who are out of water. It's crazy to think that you're out of water when there's 1.5 feet of snow outside. And
I don't think most people would realize. Well, one, the work that it takes to boil down water.
Right. Well, and if you don't have water filtration, it doesn't matter because water, you know, snow's got all kinds of contaminants in it. So it's kind of one of those things that I guess I would urge everybody to sit down and figure out what scenarios you could really be facing. And it doesn't matter how big of a long shot. I mean, how many people are being flooded out right now that never thought they'd flood? I mean, that's the kind of evacuation type situation.
Well, but this morning at breakfast, Nikki showed me a picture of Tahoe's ski areas.
53 feet deep.
53 feet. And I looked at that for a second and I thought, well, that's a typo. There's no way they have 53 feet of snow. And then she showed me the pictures of their ski lifts and their chairs. And they must be literally to the top of the post. They must be like 56, 57 feet tall because the wheels that the cables go over
are barely out of the snow.
Yeah. And it's just like, I can't even imagine how much water is in 53 feet of snow.
Well, so here in Klamath at the museum, they were saying the other day they were actually measuring it, and it was roughly 0.3 of an inch to every inch of snow.
Yes.
So,
and they were at 40, I think at the time, this is prior to this last snowstorm, they were at like 42 feet of snow. And that was equivalent to, I think it was like 13, almost 14 feet of rain, or like wet.
Yeah. And look, we're not usually snowed in this time of year. Like we have never had this much snow this late in the year either.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I would say figure out what your, even if it seems like a long shot, what could happen and make yourself a list. And if you're not following at least the 30 days of stuff on hand, you got to get on it. Like, I feel like we barely had 30 days worth of dog food for the inside dogs, and we're at day 12. So do I still have like 2-3 weeks? Yeah, I've still got like 2-3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But every day I tick through that, and every day I have to be thinking, am I going to find my dog food when I go to town? Because dog food is getting so dang hard to find. I keep seeing all these comments come in and I can't read it. What am I missing over here? Oh my gosh, I missed all kinds of stuff. Oh, Heather's on.
Heather is on.
Heather, are you breeding silver fox? Somebody asked me.
Somebody's looking for you.
Somebody asked me the other day if Heather was still breeding silver fox, and I said I hadn't seen anything, so I don't know. I said I assume she's structuring her farm at the moment. So, yeah, I wasn't sure. That was the answer I gave because as far as I knew, you were shuffling. I saw you had some cages for sale recently, but
I don't think there's that much. I mean, just a comment on redundant systems. That's the key to good prep.
Yes,
we are very big on that.
Right. Well, and even if so, I was thinking about this yesterday because when you're out doing chores in the cold and shoveling a lot of snow, you have a lot of time to think. And I thought, okay, so if I run out of bird food, which I won't, but if I did, we still have alfalfa in the barn. Most people don't know that, but chickens will eat alfalfa. Quite a bit of it, actually. They'll probably a little bit first because chickens are, at least my chickens are divas. But we've got stuff, right? Nobody's going to run out of anything. We've got plenty of hay in the barn. We have hay all the way to June.
There is not an animal on this farm that I truly believe would allow it to starve to death if given the choice of eating something.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, they're gonna preserve themselves, and even if they say, I don't really want to eat that, tomorrow they might say, I think I'm gonna try some of that.
Okay, so Heather, you should hook up with Deanna. I think she's got a buck.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know what she's got. She has some bucks, or she had some bucks. She might have sold them. But yeah, so usually, this is how out of left field this whole snow thing has been. Is usually we have a big melt around the Astoria Rabbit Show, which is generally like President's Day weekend. And then we get snow off and on, little bits, like 3-4 inches. This thing, I should usually by this next weekend be going to a show in Grants Pass, and the roads are generally clear. Like we don't even hit snow on the way over. Sometimes it rains. This year I'm not even going to go. They've moved it up to Rosberg, and I'm not going to go. I just don't have anything to show because I've had no litters. But this has been, we have the blower, we have the bucket, we can plow our way out. This snow has been awful.
Well, the hard part is, we've blown so much, and if you've seen our pictures on Facebook, I did one today. I took one of the dogs, and Liza's, she's a good sized dog. And the snow is, it's deep enough that I could drive my car out and you would never see it. Because it would be below the snow level where the blower is. And then, when it starts to get to mush, it doesn't blow at that point. You could scoop it if you could get into traction, but there's nowhere to put it.
Right. And that's the other big problem that we've got right now. So I have blown us 2/3 of the way out twice.
Yeah.
And then hit basically a wall. So what has happened is the snow has gotten deep enough each time that I could not drive the tractor out to the deep stuff. So I've got to blow it all the way out. Well, that takes hours. It's not a quick thing because anybody who's ever blown snow with a snowblower knows that you are basically granny gear. You are low one as slow as she'll go to make sure that the auger can get it up and out of the chute fast enough. Otherwise, you push snow into a big mountain and it packs and you can't get it out. So we hit a part just over halfway out where our road begins to go uphill and then it turns and then it really goes uphill right between a bunch of trees. So when I was having trouble with the tractor running the other day because the snow was heavy, I was able to blow and then actually take the bucket and back scoop, coming back out and basically plow the rest of it off to make the road wide enough to get out. But I could not, even when I turned around, I couldn't push up because you're pushing uphill and the snow is already that deep. I couldn't push it up and I couldn't bucket it off because there's literally nowhere to bucket it.
Mm-hmm.
The blower does a nice job because it'll just spray that crap through the trees and it doesn't care. But the bucket can't do that. Not without breaking off limbs, and I don't want to destroy trees trying to get through there. So it's been a challenge. And it's like the other day, I drove through the 6-8 inches with the tractor and got almost up to the halfway point. Well, there's a big dip in the middle or a big hill in the middle of it, and I couldn't get up. Just spun because underneath all of the snow had hit ice. So there was nothing for the tractor to grab onto. So even though we have all the toys, and I guess that's been the big learning experience for us too, is don't put too much confidence into what you've got, because even though we've got a bucket that I can blade with and a blower, we are still stuck at 12 days because the conditions have not been good.
Mm-hmm.
Like I blew this morning and it was going beautifully, and then all of a sudden we got to a sunny spot and it packed up within 100 feet. No go. The tractor literally could not get enough purchase to go, and the blower wouldn't blow. And I was just done. So tomorrow morning when it's frozen again, we'll start again and try. But then I had a hard time driving back because everything that was left is turning to slush.
Yeah.
So it's been, you can't, I guess I would have been more frustrated if we were at a crisis point and needed to get out of here. But you can't put too much emphasis on your toys. Like there's always that chance that our generator could fail.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? I mean, we've had this happen because our batteries died a couple years ago. So we know you just click stuff off and
you sit in the dark a little bit.
Yeah, sit in the dark a little bit. Yeah, turn the freezers off because it's cold. You just turn the freezers off and keep an eye on them. So, you can't get overconfident. I think that's been our problem a little bit. We were a little overconfident of, who cares? We got the stuff. And then we still couldn't get out. But
it's only been lately though.
Yeah.
But we love playing the game where we sit around and talk about, well, what if blank happens? What would we do? And most of the time we have an answer. And this one, I mean, I don't want to say it was a perfect storm, but by golly, it's been pretty interesting to see all these risk factors, if you will, stack up against each other. And it's like, wow, there's the, what if A, B, C, D happens and J shows up while H is sitting out there waving at you? Let's see. There's a backhoe or dozer. See, that's somebody else said that too. A dozer.
Dozers only work if you got somewhere to put the snow.
Yeah, but there's like a couple 100 yards of snow that is between trees, and it's already walled up. You already have, at least 36 to 40 inches of snow piled up. So if you had a massive dozer, you might be able to push enough snow, but eventually that snow is going to pile up and just form a wall.
Yeah.
That even that dozer is not going to push through, or it is, and it's going to cause so much damage to the road. Because you got to remember, we maintain this road and it's gravel, so anything we destroy now means in a month from now, when I try to go get my lowered car out, we spend a whole weekend running a tractor back and forth and raking and cutting bushes and all the stuff, trying to make sure that I can still get out, because this car is not going to do it otherwise.
So a friend of mine asked the other day, she said, well, when the weather gets better, why don't you just knock a few trees down and make some spots that you can push snow off? So here's the other thing you have to understand about our road. So we are 3/4 of a mile down a Forest Service road.
Yeah.
And we have no right to do anything off the road. They've never said anything about us trimming bushes within 2 feet of the gravel, right? But one year when we re-graveled the road, they actually threw an absolute tantrum and said we had no right to do it. Luckily, the agreement that my dad got originally when he put the road in said that we had the right to maintain it. And that is part of maintaining it. But we don't have any right to make turnouts or anything else. The road is the road. And if we start trying to violate that, they can come in and shut our road off, and then we have nothing. So it is a very delicate situation. If I had access to where I could do whatever I wanted with the road, I would make a big spot halfway up to where I could push snow off. The one year that we got like 18 inches overnight and all I had was the bucket, what I had to do, and I may have to do this if it continues, is you'd have to drive up to the edge of the snow, stick the bucket down, back it down, and then bucket it off.
Yeah.
or plow it off. If you could drag it back far enough, because the tractor will come down the hill. And yeah. And what makes it even more fun, like Kanan said, it's been sunny and it's melting, but it doesn't melt through there because we have trees on both sides, so it stays completely frozen.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's been interesting. But like I said, don't put too much faith in your toys. I mean, really, when they say have 30 to 60 days of stuff on hand, have 30 to 60. Do not count on the fact that, I got a tractor or a dozer, a backhoe, whatever else. Those things, mechanical things quit. Mechanical things fail. And then what do you have? I mean, you still got to be able to.
Well, as much as we like the blower, the first time she got up to the top, she didn't realize that somebody had stuck their truck in there, and she sucked a chain that they left down in the snow. She sucked a chain in the blower. And thankfully, I mean, it, popped all the shear pins. They did their job. They broke versus the blower breaking or the chain or anything else. But she called and said, "Hey, by the way, I sucked a chain up in the blower because it was buried in the snow and it had been snowed over." And so thankfully I just rode up on the quad with some tools and some blower bolts, because we knew when we got it from her dad when he dropped it off that we didn't have shear pins. So we went to the store, we looked up online, got a manual for it, went to the store, bought shear bolts for it, just, the what happens if kind of deal. So we bought shear pins, which were the wrong ones, by the way.
Yeah.
Which were the wrong ones because of the manual. They were incorrect. But
this model's been made for like 30 years, and apparently it's changed.
It's changed at some point in there. But anyway, I got it fixed within 5 minutes, and she was able to immediately come back and just start blowing again. But that's the thing. What happens if if and I told her this before? What happens if there's another chain up there that we don't see, and she sucks it in the blower and it chunks up and does something, and it's like, well, I don't know. I guess we could go back to a funny story. Our original neighbors that were here previously, when we borrowed her dad's snowblower a few years ago, they assumed it was a walk behind snowblower, that's got like an 18-inch wide piece, and they offered to walk the road snow blowing it, which was really funny. And then they tried to shovel from their place out when we got stuck.
Oh yeah, no. Let me back that story up. So, and this speaks again to be prepared. So we had some people move in next to us that, honest to God, believed that we didn't get more than 2 feet of snow in a year. I don't know what they were looking at. But the first time that we had 18 inches of snow overnight, they were a full half mile past us, and they were telling everybody on Facebook that they were going to shovel their way out all the way to the main road. They made it like 50 feet,
which would have been a mile and a quarter.
Yeah. While they're telling everybody this is way before we had a snowblower. It was, in fact, because of this storm, my dad went out and bought a snowblower the next year. So I took the tractor and basically got us out with the bucket. It took 8 hours from the house to the top of the road to get the road clean. But I did it. It took a long time, and I was very new to doing it. Now I'd probably do it in like 7. But yeah, so that was their first year. Now the next winter, knowing this happened, you would think that the next year they'd have been a little bit more prepared. But no. So the next year, she tells me after a big storm that, they're going to have to shovel out or whatever. And I said, well, from my gate up to the road, I said, I've got my dad's snowblower and I'll just blow. And she said, oh, that's great. We'll come and we'll take turns. And I said, what do you mean we'll take turns? And she said, well, yeah, you're going to get tired pushing that thing. Because keep in mind, it's uphill. You're going to get tired pushing that thing all that way, all that many times. And I thought, what? And I said, no, it's a 6-foot tractor mounted snowblower. And the look on her face was like, oh. And so I came home and I told Kaden, because I had run into her on the road, and I said, I don't know what she thought. And he said, no, I think she thought you were going to push an 18-inch snowblower all the way up the road and back. And I was just dumbfounded. But they were like this the whole time they were there. So when it would snow, they were stuck. They were just stuck.
Well, this was the same time that we graciously let them put hay by our gate, because they could come down in with hay bales and stack it there, but they couldn't drive back to get it. So the husband, it was either two scenarios. It was it was enough snow for a sled, so he would pull a sled a half-mile walk from their house up to our gate to get one hay bale for like 17 horses, which was gone in like an hour.
Yeah.
Twice a day. Or if there was little snow on there, he would bring up a one-wheeled wheelbarrow. And he did this a lot of the time. So
for like 9 months.
Yeah,
before they got a road in.
Walk up. Yeah, this is before they put a road in too. He would walk with a one-wheeled wheelbarrow a half mile to get one bale of hay to walk it back, and you'd see him walk. I bet every 100 yards
it would fall over.
It would fall over and dump that hay bale out, and he'd have to pick it up and pick it up and put it back in there and walk more. You could hear his cussing before you could see him, because he would have to do that.
Yeah.
Twice a day. To come get a hay bale.
They honestly, I mean, when we first met her, she swore up and down, oh, you guys don't get any more than 24 inches. We've done our research.
Well, and the year they bought their property was just ending the first winter I had been here.
And it was dry.
It was very, very cold. They came on Valentine's weekend. And they came and stayed, and we were like, you guys are not going to want to sleep down here. And so they brought down a 2-man tent and one sleeping bag, because they were going to cuddle all night.
They froze.
And they came out like 8 a.m. the next morning, and it had been like 15 degrees overnight. They froze.
Yeah.
Froze sitting back there, because they're a lower elevation. They get colder than we were up here.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a sink right at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we probably get, and I've looked online and it's wildly different numbers, but I'm going to guess we get about 60 inches of snow. So the first winter that they were here, we got big snow. And pretty much every winter that they were here, they were only here like 3 years before they gave up. And actually they split up. She moved out. She's snowbirding in Arizona these days. But he's actually on the other side of Sprague River, and I don't even know how he's surviving. I just don't. No idea. But we're getting off on a tangent yet again. So preparedness. You got to know what you're, you got to have food. You got to have water. That was another thing that we learned from them. The first time that we saw him after the winter, the first thing he says to Kaden is, because their well had frozen, they didn't put the outlet of the well in the right spot. It came up above ground and froze. So he says to Kaden, he says to my dad.
It's your dad.
Do you know how long it takes to melt enough snow to water 17 horses? He had been sitting out there all winter with a turkey fryer melting snow for the horses because he had no water. The water had frozen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, kind of an interesting thing. But, you got to make sure you got food, water, shelter, and in the winter, heat. Right? That's the big stuff.
Yeah. I don't know what that's doing.
I don't know either.
I will say this, though. Well, one, the reason we started this YouTube channel, one of the main reasons we started this YouTube channel like 5 years ago was because of these neighbors. Because their stories and information about this area was so bad.
Yeah.
That a lot of our early videos were directly related to a conversation with them.
Well, she was a realtor and she was selling real estate to people in this area, telling them all this stupid stuff that they believed. And
Yeah.
it was like, no,
Yeah.
no, yeah. So yeah, preparedness. I can't stress it enough.
I will say this. If you see anything on the news, and we do this a lot, if you see anything on the news about somebody having a bad time, whether it's a flood, a snow, they ran out of something or something else, it should, in your mind, make you stop and go, can I get myself into that situation? And if the answer is maybe or yes, write it in a notebook that you need to do something about it.
So yeah, and one of those, and we're talking about mostly weather and natural disasters here, but I'm sure everybody has seen the news, right? The little thing called bank failures. And I don't want to get into a lot of that. Some banks are more prone to it than others. There were 17 banks on the list the other day that was being monitored. I know people who got their money shut off. There's a couple of gals that I know that sell off of Etsy, of all things. They make their money off of Etsy. And Etsy, one of their regional payment deals was coming out of SVB Bank. So several people, I know 3 that got these letters that said, hey, by the way, we will get you your money, but we have to reroute your accounts over, change them to another payment house because you're set up through this payment house and that payment house doesn't exist at the moment. So one gal, she's older, retired, no big thing, right? The other 2 gals, they live off grid, they make stuff, they sell stuff, their craft business pays their bills. And one lady was absolutely freaking out because she had $250 coming that she couldn't get and no groceries. So,
yeah.
I
and
can't,
no credit card. There was no
cash, no credit
no
cards,
cash on hand,
no nothing.
It was like she got paid that day. And that day she went to the store and spent all of it.
And we know people like that, right? I mean, the polls and everything that they're saying is most people are living paycheck to paycheck. And that's no different whether or not you're punching a clock or selling online. Not everybody has a backup. If you don't, start one. We were very, very poor in our younger days. And we would literally, out of every paycheck, I would take $5 and put it in savings. It didn't seem like a lot, but it does build up. You've got to have some cash on hand right now. You've got to, especially with power outages and the other thing, have enough cash to do what you need to do. So in the event of, power outages in town, a lot of times, because I've been through some of these when I was a cashier supervisor at Lowe's, we would have tornadoes come through the area or whatever, thunderstorms, the power would go out, right? A lot of these big stores have enough lighting to keep the lighting going. We could still sell stuff. We would literally pull out the emergency cash bags and calculators, which was a nightmare because so many things are barcode, we would take the backup scan guns, which are usually battery, charged, and you would scan it to get the price and fill out these sheets and manually do it. I got cussed out so many times by customers that had no cash but tried to buy flashlights or batteries or whatever else. You got to have some cash on you. And I'm not a big cash carrier. I'll admit to that. But you've got to have some on hand. You've got to right now. I mean, that's just part of the preparedness thing. At least have enough cash to get yourself out of whatever trouble you're in. So if it's a power outage and you need diesel, if somehow you can get diesel, you need to have enough cash for that. Food, firewood, whatever it is. Especially to make it for a week or two if one of these bank runs happens.
Yeah.
Because it can. And I will also kind of say, again, we're not financial advisors. That's my new favorite line. Not a financial advisor. Diversify. Does not hurt you at all to have a savings account in a different bank than where your checking account is. It's just the way things are right now. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but we could see this happen again. Every forecast I've seen says it could happen. Hackers shut stuff down all the time.
Yeah. And that's going to happen more.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can shut off a internet to a country, I don't think they can't hack a bank.
Yeah.
And those ones and zeros disappear. I'm not sure about this Christmas Valley homestead, a big diva on princess growing season.
Oh my gosh, Heather. No, you haven't been to Christmas Valley lately. No.
Well, I mean, is that the same Christmas Valley that's overrun with drugs and all that? If you've got a really good supply chain and dealer network, you might make a really good living out there.
Don't listen to him.
Tough
It
times.
is no different in Christmas Valley as far as growing season and weather than it is here. There's no difference.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same thing. Your stuff will get stolen out there. The town is full of meth heads and alcoholics and theft. I can speak to that from experience. I know people who live out there.
Yeah.
That some of them fall into those categories. So no, Christmas Valley, not a safe place to go. But yeah, you're a total diva when it comes to growing. I keep telling you, move out here, get you set up with some greenhouses. You'll be perfect.
That's what I'll say. No, I'm not gonna say that.
No, don't say it. Whatever. I saw the wheels turning. Whatever it is.
It was gonna come out offensive.
Yeah.
There was no way to say what I was gonna say. And
So
not
that's
be
my
offensive.
little talk on preparedness.
So speaking of Bigfoot.
That made me forget.
No way! You've got to tell the story now. Elijah's just been waiting this whole time to hear the story.
He probably went to bed. He's like, I'm done. I don't want to hear about this Bigfoot story. So let's see. How do I start this thing?
Tell them how you were here by yourself for it.
Yeah. So when I first moved in here in October, my parents were living in the house with me for a little bit. And they were here until roughly Thanksgiving, I want to say. And then they moved out to their place, which was at the time a couple miles from us. So we didn't have anything real weird happen when they were here, other than Mom and I were out hanging clothes one day, and we kept getting this real funky smell, and it didn't smell like a bear, but we never did see anything, right? But it was real funky, and Mom and I both kind of felt like we were being watched. It was really kind of a weird, creepy vibe. So we hurried up, hung the laundry, came back in the house. When we went out later, no smell, we'd never seen anything. It was no big deal. I had 2 LGDs here. One was a year and a half. The other one she was a wee thing, just 6, 7, 8 months.
So that was Goliath.
Goliath and Freya. Yeah.
Oh, you hadn't got shy yet. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't
So
have
we
shy
brought
yet.
both from Mississippi.
Yes.
They both came
So
with us,
I
okay.
had brought both the dogs. And at night, after Mom and Dad had moved out, so it was into December, there would be nights where the dogs would really get going. And it wasn't coyotes, it wasn't bears, it wasn't cougars. If it was, they weren't coming close enough to leave tracks anywhere. We just, dang it, I saw them say he's all there. So I had no idea what was bothering the dogs. And to this day, it could have been anything. I mean, literally, they had moved from Mississippi out to here. It was all different noises and sounds and smells.
Yeah, but there was nothing here. So, I mean...
Yeah, this had been a vacation place. There was no neighbors. Literally, it was a house and a cistern.
Yeah, the nearest activity from here was the rock pit, which is... 1.5 miles maybe as a crow flies.
And then we've got a neighbor on this corner that's probably 3/4 to a mile out.
Right. So
anyway,
there's nothing close by.
Yeah, so there's nothing. So I had weird stuff happen a little bit with that, but nothing big. You'd have that real creepy sense a lot when you go out, like something was watching you anyway. I mean, it's the woods. But it all kind of escalated in, I want to say it was January or February. So how our water was set up initially is we had a big cistern tank right outside the house, right outside the kitchen window. Because remember, this was a vacation house. The wellhead, so my parents actually drilled the well after they built the house. So when Dad brought in a water witcher, if anybody knows what that is, and the guy actually figured out that the well needed to be like, what is that, 500 feet from the house, probably?
Yeah.
So the well is heading out the driveway. So at the time, we didn't have water infrastructure at all. So how you would get water is you would go down to where the wellhead was, run a generator that was hooked up to the wellhead, pump water out, fill a 225 gallon tank, drive it back down, back it up to the cistern, and dump into the cistern and repeat, because it was a 1,000-gallon cistern. So I would do it 3-4 times. You know, it's just me. I didn't go through a whole lot of water. So yeah, it's like January, February, a little bit of snow on the ground. It was really frozen. It was really cold. And I got down there and I start the generator. I fill the first tank, turn the generator off, put the tank back, come back, and get ready to fire the generator back up. And the dogs go absolutely crazy. Like I can hear them lunging at the side of the pen and absolutely going nuts. And you could tell it's a fear response, right? They're barking and snarling and jumping and whimpering and crying, and like they can see me and I can see them, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. You know, I don't see anything. There's nothing out here. So I look around a little bit. I walk over. I talk to the dogs. Nothing. So I go back over and I start the generator. And as I turn to get the hose, a rock that big, good softball, little.
What are you doing?
Little smaller than a softball, probably more baseball size, comes flying from the trees on the other side. So just out, what is that? Probably 200 yards.
To this tree stand?
Yeah, to the tree stand over there.
I think more like 130, maybe. I don't think 200, but it's a
good little clip.
It's something I could never even try to throw.
And it wasn't like this rock just got thrown. Like that thing went up and arced back, like it had been just, for the fences. And remember, I'm down here by myself. There's only one way into our valley, and that's the road coming to my gate. And this rock just comes flying, and it lands about 9 feet from me is all. And I was just like, what in the world? I look over, there's nothing. You can't see nothing. And the trees are not that thick. It's a good little tree stand, but for the most part, you can see through it. And I don't see anything. And then I hear all this wild crashing. There is breaking limbs and whatever else, and I can't see nothing. And that's the freakiest part, is you can't see anything. So, I've got by this time I've clicked the generator off, and I'm like, I have no flipping idea what's going on. Dogs are back to going crazy. And then it gets to the craziest silence I have ever heard in my life. There's nothing. The dogs stop. You could have heard a pin drop, like nothing. So every hair on my body is standing up. I'm trying to figure out what in the hell threw a rock at me. There's nobody down here. A person could not. I don't care who you are. There's no way a person could have thrown that rock. So I thought, okay. So I pick up the rock, which has now been lost, which is so frustrating. I had that rock for a while, but it got left on a trailer and it fell off somewhere. So yeah, I took all my stuff, went back to the house. I was like, I don't know what the hell. Tried to call my dad. He was up the street working on his place. Couldn't get a hold of him. Later, when I finally did, Dad and Mom came down. Dad took a rifle out, went looking, couldn't find anything. He's like, I have no idea, kiddo. There's not a footprint anywhere. I can't find anything. There's no hair, nothing. So, I'm freaked out. But we're all looking at this rock and we're like, there's no way. There's no way a person threw this. So after that, nothing happens for a while. Like everything goes back to normal. The next day I go out, I fill the water tank. We finally get it all done. It's like no big thing. I I think a week or so later, Kanan comes to stay, and the whole time he's here, every time he would come down to visit while we're getting ready to move, the dogs would sleep all the way through the night. There'd be no barking, no nothing. He goes away, and like 3 days later, I'm out doing stuff right around dark, and you hear some coyotes, yep. And then this scream-like noise, and everything goes quiet. And I'm like, what is that? Like, I have no idea. If you've ever watched the Bigfoot shows where they're like doing the wild, like, I'm not going to mimic it.
The throaty calls.
The real throaty, like, kind of calls. That is what it sounded like. And whatever it is, stop those coyotes dead. And I know it can't be a person because we yell at them all the time and they just ignore you and keep going. Mm-hmm. And then a week or two, because at this point I hightail it in the house. I ain't listening to this. I don't know what's going on, but I don't like it. Like a week or two goes by. I'm out working on the first greenhouse that we have, and you start hearing these things that they talk about in these shows of these wood knocks of stuff. It sounds like pieces of wood knocking together. And you can hear it on the far side, not in the standard trees, but a little bit further. You could hear it. And I thought, okay, it's got to be just something knocking together, right? This is forest.
Yeah. The
wind's blowing, things knock. And then on the other side of me up the hill, what sounds like an answering knock. And I'm like, oh boy, I don't know about this. And then the whistling, and then more noises. And I would hear stuff periodically, because again, I'm a chicken. I tailed it into the house. But this went on for most of the summer.
Yeah.
It had started in like February. But it went all the way through the summer. The last time that I really had anything happen was around Father's Day. I was out working on some stuff, and it looked like I was looking up towards where the neighbor's rock pit is, and it looked like something big on two legs went running across that opening, and I was like, oh hell no, I don't know what I just saw. And about that same time, my mom thought she had seen something about a mile up the road. They were on their way to town, and she just looked down the hill as Dad's driving and said, I think I saw a gorilla. And it was like, this is Sprague River, Oregon. There are no wild gorillas. So yeah, Mom thought she saw something. And that after that, it all kind of died down. I didn't see a whole lot. By this point, I had gotten dog number 3. And dog number 3 was already pushing like 100 pounds at 10 months old. And, between the 3 dogs. And by then we're starting to work on stuff. Dad's got the tractor down here. We're clearing stuff. And so I don't know. I don't know if we pushed something out of here. Nobody had lived here the whole time. My parents put the house in 05, 03, 06, something like that. So there had been nothing. And then once they got the house in, it was a vacation house. And so I was the first person who has ever lived in this valley ever.
Yeah.
And yeah, pretty wild stuff. But I was a believer before that. But I definitely became a believer after that.
You were a skeptical believer before that.
Yeah, I was skeptical before that. But yeah, because there's a little argument of how come we've never found one, and all that kind of stuff. But there is a lot of evidence as far as footprints and different stuff, and so that's my big thing. After that, I'm more than convinced that there is something out there. It may not be out here anymore. And I would get more noise and more activity every time Kanan would come. It was like it didn't like.
New alpha showed up. That's why.
Yeah.
The new gorilla showed up in town. I'm
sure some big monster's afraid of me.
90-foot tall gorilla monster was like, oh, that guy's here.
There's a skinny white guy with glasses. Whoa!
Exactly. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's it. That's my Bigfoot story. There's another one in my family from when my dad was a kid. My grandmother actually used to have what she would tell everybody was a Bigfoot hair sample. And they actually sent it off to somebody years and years and years ago. And I don't know whatever happened to it, but that was from when I want to say my dad was a kid. It was kind of a orangey, red, brown. I remember her showing it to me when we were kids. But yeah. So there you go. Not a terribly thrilling story.
No.
If not for The Rock, there was a lot of, you could have said whatever. I honestly believe that a lot of times what people hear out in the woods, what they think is a Bigfoot or some kind of noise is, I think a lot of times range cows and heat. I know that probably sounds weird, but man, you get some cows and some heifers out there with some real throaty yells.
Yeah. And
I always think that's probably what somebody's hearing. Just a throaty old cow out there, but cows don't throw rocks, man. I don't know. They don't throw rocks.
They don't. So on another time, we'll delve into the UFO stuff we deal with out here.
Yeah. So.
And speaking of Skinwalker Ranch that we love, just kidding.
Yeah. No, we'll have to talk about that on another thing because the Klamath County, not everybody knows this. Klamath County sees a lot of unidentified activity. UAPs is what they call them now. Yeah. Not even UFOs. They call them UAPs. And a lot of people think it's because of the base.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff that people see out here. And we have seen some weird stuff. We have seen some weird aerial stuff that was not satellites and they weren't flying jets. And
yeah.
I have a funny story to that, though, is when Starlink was starting to go on, oh my God, the number of locals who thought we were being invaded. Like
there's 50 spaceships going over in the line and they're all spacing you, and somebody will come on like that's Starlink. It's what?
Yeah, the Starlink thing caused a lot of confusion and stress in the lives of a lot of people, but
yeah, it has.
Yeah,
so that's okay. I've kept her up at night where she doesn't sleep at night because I'll say there's an alien spaceship out there that I can see, and she'll be like,
I don't do aliens.
I do.
I don't do aliens.
I like aliens. I'm a space guy.
He is a space guy.
I'm a space nerd.
I could talk all night about all my crazy alien stuff. There you go. All right.
Next time.
Next time we'll let Katie go on his alien stuff. All right, that's all I got.
That's all I got. Stock up your pantries, fill up your containers.
Watch out for Bigfoot.
Watch out for Bigfoot. They are great in snow because they have big snowshoes on. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but
anyway.
That's actually kind of funny. And learn to cook.
That's a good one.
Learn to cook. At least cook some stuff.
And only put away stuff for emergency that you like to eat. We have these battles where I'll be like, how about this? And she'll be like, I don't like to eat that. And well, that's our reserve. So, yeah.
Have to be in the mood.
Only put stuff away that you actually want to eat.
Yeah.
Don't get...
stuff that you can eat without preparation.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why so many people will stock up on Spam. Don't eat Spam cold. Nobody eats Spam cold.
Yeah. Or Vienna sausages or whatever you get in a can.
Yeah.
They're not good. Well, it's after 10. Have a good night. We will.
Have a good night, Elijah. I hope you enjoyed my Bigfoot rock story.
Yeah. And I think that's it. I think that's it. It's dinner time.
So we will try and do another one in 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah.
If anybody has topic.
I don't know. We'll see what happens in 2 weeks. I mean, bank collapses and stock market crashes.
Maybe. I think it's going to take more than 2 weeks.
It probably will.
But
who knows?
All right, guys. Stay safe out there. Happy homesteading. We'll see you next time.